a number of years in this industry across cafes, hotels, restaurants, and today the topic of conversation is, as you can see up on the board there, businesses aren't tracing trends, they're responding strategically and efficiently with an eye on their bottom line. And today I have three wonderful gentlemen who are going to unpack this topic for us and give us their own insights. So welcome, gentlemen. I'll quickly introduce them for you. First we have Chef Vusi. Please put your hands together for Chef Vusi. He is the culinary lead at Unilever Food Solutions South Africa. Vusi works closely with operators around the country, helping them design menus that balance profit, practicality, and customer appeal. He's a sharp eye for what's genuinely shifting in consumer behavior and how to implement changes in the kitchen without overcomplicating operations. So welcome, Vusi. Next up, we have Chef Philippe Frydman. Put your hands together for Chef Philippe, please, ladies and gentlemen. He is the executive chef at Oakfield Farm Wedding Venue and a food service specialist. Philippe's career spans Europe, Israel, South Africa, with experience in award-winning restaurants, large-scale events, and collaborative initiatives like Chefs with Compassion. He brings a practical, operational perspective on managing complexity at scale while maintaining quality and profitability. And last but not least, the gentleman right on the end there, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Boota Pitso, a senior commercial leader. Yes, please give him a warm round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Senior commercial leader in the beverage space with experience across major FMCG portfolios, including his current role as head of ARTD, which is alcohol ready to drink, which obviously leans quite heavily into our low or no alcohol sugar topic. So very interested to talk to Boota about that. And Boota will share his insights into what's actually selling across beverage categories where operators might be overcomplicating their menus possibly, and how to simplify operations while driving revenue. So, gentlemen, welcome to all of you. It's my great pleasure to have you here. So let's dive into today's conversation. The last few years have been a challenge for the hospitality industry in South Africa. Rising costs, tighter margins, customer expectations are constantly evolving. In this session, we're going to explore what's genuinely driving consumer choices in food and beverages. And we're going to start off with my friend here, Chef Vusi. From kitchen and menu perspective, what is real and what is hype?
I think currently what's real is it's working with what you have, right? We see a lot of people, especially in the marketing space, where we get a lot of bloggers who come up with a lot of food trends, and those trends are expected to be in kitchens. But when you take those trends and try to apply them in the kitchen, sometimes they don't work for the space. Two, different palettes where you are actually having it. You cannot have, in South Africa, we have four regions, which is Cape Town, Joburg, right, Durban. So each region has a different palette. So from there, we have to understand, if we take this and launch it in Durban, would it work? As we know, Durban is highly known for curries. Maybe not, maybe yes. So that's how we need to view things and gauge things on what will work and what will not work. Eh?
Thank you for that. Yes, I think we're talking about trends here a lot this morning, and I think seeing especially a younger consumer coming through who are very health and wellness conscious, sober curious is a new trend in the industry. You have recently just completed, well, Unilever has just recently completed the Future Menu Trends Report. Can you speak to that a little bit?
So we have around 300 chefs around the globe. So what we do is all the chefs meet together and we come up with what's happening in the world. So how does this work? I'll talk about two that are close to my heart, which is culinary roots and street culture, right? So what do we do here, right? It's like taking a fat cook, right? Making a creme brulee fat cook, or making a creme brulee amakwenya. So it's something that has never been done. So we take that localizing to what our region thinks, or can it work in our region? Yes, because people like fat cooks. It's a dessert, and that's what we'll call culinary roots, right? Everything that we've used back in the days, but how do we incorporate it to the evolving world of culinary in nowadays, right? And the second one, which is also very important to me, is street culture, is something similar again as well. You might take a fat cook and put it in a restaurant. I was in one of the establishments in Cape Town, and they've given me an appetizer which had a mini fat cook, which is makwenya. So there we could see that people are actually using our trends as well, localizing them and implementing them in their establishments.
Amazing, thank you. Chef Philippe, you've been in this industry a very long time. You've seen all the trends come and go. What are your thoughts when it comes to catering for a diverse dietary requirements at scale?
Well, there's really two ways to look at it. So, or you're going to follow, and you're going to follow the trends, which are not wrong, okay? Or you're really going to try and make a success of your business and utilize your knowledge. Because unfortunately, more and more, unfortunately, and I'm saying that, and I'm about to make myself a lot of enemies, unfortunately, we're trying to be everything to everybody because we want to follow a trend. For me, the only trend to follow is you. What you do the best, and that's it. You got restaurants today, on one hand, that open, that make the Sunday Times look like a pocketbook because their menus are about this big. Then you got restaurant, there's a burger joint that opened in Parktown or Parkview, whatever his name is. There's 5 items on the menu. 3 burgers, 2 types of chips. They're queuing all the way to Jan Smuts Avenue. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I think we need to be very careful. And yes, companies like Unilever are very important because it helps the industry to develop itself and to understand for people that can't afford to travel or can't afford to spend their time trying to figure out what's happening where and when. But for me, the only important trend which is important to your business is you. You do something, you do to the best of your ability. 2 things are going to happen. 1, you're going to be known for certain products. 2, and I know that we don't like to hear this in South Africa, you're going to cut down on your staff. Because you're not going to need so many staff to produce what you like and what is tasty. Because at the end of the day, it's very nice to say, I'm going to do a trend like this or a trend like that. And especially today with social media, the problem you have is that if the product, and I'm sorry if I say that, at Oakfield, I use a lot of Unilever products. I do. No secret. Their creme brulee and all that, their hollandaise sauce, I do use a lot of their products. If they're not used properly and the recipe is not followed, somebody is going to go on social media and say, but the chef at Oakfield uses powdered food. And that's where you have a problem. That's why your trend, I don't want to be better than him. I don't want to produce better products than he does. You know what? You want to come to me, I'm going to produce what I do. And if you don't like it, there's plenty other places to go to. And I think that's what's important in terms of following trend. And if you go overseas, this is a trend which is happening more and more overseas where the restaurants are getting smaller and smaller. So we've got, I don't know how you call it, we've got in Cape Town Time Out, which is an association of a shitload of little places that do 5 or 6 dishes or whatever. Some people do restaurants like that.
Yeah.
And and this is how it works. The biggest trend in South Africa, you got a restaurant of any sort. If it doesn't work, what do? How about opening a sushi bar? Because the sushi bar is going to save you. Where, I don't know. But that's what people do. You got an identity, follow, that's your trend.
Thank you, Philippe. Very wise words there. All right, Boota, I'm very excited to put you on the spot here because, in a nice way, don't worry. Because I think when it comes to your job at Coca-Cola, especially with the alcohol, there's this sober curious trend, which is against alcohol, I suppose.
Yeah.
And also no sugar. So from your vantage points across categories, Where's the real growth coming from in the beverage space, or are we seeing a decline in that space?
So Ian, it's an interesting question, right? But yeah, so
There we go.
so I think whilst we are still seeing growth within the low and calorie space, the functional beverages still are prominent within our space at CCBSA, at Coca-Cola, and certainly amongst our competitors as well. So if you are asking where is the growth sitting, currently the functional beverages, what people are used to, are still what is delivering growth for the industry, right? But is there a trend that's moving towards zero, low alcohol? I mean, if I take the alcohol space for an example, you've got now gins that are zero alcohol gins. You've got beers that are prevalent, have come up, Castle, Heineken Zero, etc. So the trend is certainly moving in that direction. But is it what is delivering growth for suppliers at the moment? No. What's currently carrying the business is still the functional beverages currently, yeah.
And can you give us maybe an example of products or product innovation that you are working on at Coca-Cola right now that we'll see in the next 6 months to a year, rollouts on site, on premises?
Maybe let me talk about our current innovation, which is Jack Daniels and Coca-Cola, right? So what you would have seen with the premixes, it would be a brandy and cola. I'm not going to mention the names. It would be a whiskey and cola. What we've done through our partnership with Brown-Forman is actually have Jack Daniels and original Coca-Cola. And what we've all pivoted to, additionally to that, is we've had Coca-Cola original and the zero version. So in most of our innovations, even though we, even in the alcohol space, are still using Coca-Cola original, we have also launched a zero version. And that speaks to the trend that moves to the low and no new consumption trend that we're seeing. So we've got big ambitions for this brand. We do intend to bring other ARTD brands in the coming future. I think what we've been able to do with this brand is really going to do quite well in the market. It's already doing well, and we hope to also work with the likes of the chefs to perhaps bring some new menu items using these brands as Coca-Cola focuses on food as well. Yeah, so that's where I'm sitting.
All right, thank you, Boota. Very good. I'm going to come back to Chef Vusi here. If I'm running a mid-sized restaurant, and maybe there's some people in the audience here today who are doing just that, what would be the simplest adjustments I could make to my menu tomorrow to maximize profits, become more efficient, streamline operations, but also cater for what my audience wants?
Keep it simple, right? Keep your menu simple. Like you said, don't have pages and pages of a menu. Keep it simple. People enjoy simple food, but cook the right way. You know, to get more cost, and also don't buy just one product to use it on one dish. When you buy a product, try to use it. Your product is versatile, but try to use the product in different dishes. There you'll save money and you'll make more profit margins.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, audience, while I ask Chef Philippe the next question, I want you to think about any questions you might have on this topic. If you can think of a question, please put your hand up and I'll come to you, and you can ask it to me or to whomever you'd like to. You have that opportunity. Chef Philippe, okay, so those are very wise words from Vusi, but what about when it comes to training your staff to execute that?
Look, I think at the end of the day, the staff needs to feel that that you want to train them. You need to uplift. You know, a lot of people train staff and make sure that they never leave. I train staff and make sure that they can go and better themselves elsewhere. So I think that you need to be hands-on, and the staff needs to know that you can do it. Because if you become hostage to your staff, then you've got a problem. So your staff needs to know that at the end of the day, call it, you remain the alpha or whatever you want to call it. But you need to allow, and also you need to allow the staff to come up with their own ideas. I always say I'm a chef by trade and I'm lazy by nature. I redo menus I do a few adjustments 4 times a year, depending on I go to my staff and I say, perfect, you bring me 2 recipes for tomorrow, and you bring me 1 recipe for tomorrow. I don't care what you bring me. Just bring me the recipe. Tell me what you need, that you want to use convenience food. Can I use that? Okay. You want to use convenience food, or you want to... The big advantage of convenience food, or the food, or the product that you use from a company like Unilever, 1, you got consistency. 2, you got quality. It's very nice to say, I'm going to do my own, hollandaise, and I'm going to do a fantastic egg Benedict. As long as whoever does it is prepared to work 7 days a week, 365 days a year, then it's consistency. The minute somebody else is going to do it, you got an issue. So you need to choose your product strategically, and you need to, the staff needs to believe that you believe in them. And I've been in South Africa for 44 years now, and trust me, my staff has done fantastically. And the reason why is because I tell them, you do the work. I got no problem. I'll stay in my office and I'll do paperwork and I'll do whatever I need to do. For people that do work in big environments, okay, unfortunately, he's the executive chef, but very little time to go onto the floor. The accountants want this and that and that and that. So you have to do all that. So you need to rely on your staff. And a tap on the shoulder, well done, is worth 1,000 rand at the end of the month. Trust me.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely agree with that. Boota, going to come back to you. We've seen lots of trends come and go. We saw craft beer 13 years ago go through the roof. Every single person was opening a craft brewery. Then we saw the gin trend go through the roof. The next thing was going to be rum. What is your communication like to a medium-sized restaurant owner when it comes to on consumption, so that they don't chase these trends, overstock, and are left with stock that they can never use, or they now have to innovate to move it or return it possibly? What's the communication like from your point of view to the trade?
It's a very good question, Ian, and thanks for that. So I think let me start with the lie in the boardroom, right, for suppliers, that I've got to be innovating every quarter, right? So I've got to have something quite new, really 4 times a year. That's not true. So what the advice that I would give to operators is you've got to follow your customer, got to follow your consumer. So it's really about, in any space, in any channel, it's about the occasion, it's about the brand, it's about the pack, it's about the price and the channel in which you operate in, right? We are in the on-premise industry. Who is your customer? How often do they frequent your premises? And when they are there, in what occasion are they there for? Is it after work drinks? Are they there for a date? Are they there to watch a sports game? And you've got to be able to define that for your business, and that's the direction that you've got to take. So the OBPCC is really what drives the strategy of what should happen in anybody's business. So if you're asking me, what advice would I give to any operator, any customer? Number 1, invest in your outlet. Invest from the outside. By the time that I walk in, you would have seen that many restaurants, they've got branding of suppliers, that's meant to drive a queue, right? So I walk in there, umbrellas are brand X, let's call brand X, right? As I walk in, brand X is next to Boota's restaurant. I walk inside, the uniform on the waiters and waitresses is also branded with brand X, right? I sit down, the glassware that is on the table is also brand X. By the time I open the menu, how many times have I seen brand X? I've seen it on the outside, I've seen it on the uniform, I'm seeing it on the glasses. By the time that I see it on the menu, that's what I'm ordering. We do that as cues at Coca-Cola, specifically for that. So by the time that I'm actually saying to Ian as my waiter, can I go and have a bottle of Valpre? There are so many cues that I've used to go and get there. And if you want to take anything out of this session today, go and hold the suppliers accountable. Go and hold even my business, Coca-Cola, accountable to say, can you support us here? You know, go and hold even some of the other suppliers that you're working with accountable to say, let me grow with you. Because that's really what drives growth within the space.
Hello. Oh, God.
Hello.
Okay. Good day. I've got a question and a comment as well. So the question is for Chef Vusi, right? How do you suggest we navigate gastronomical trends that somehow hinder efficiency, also taking into account health and safety of food consumption? And I'm saying this because I'm a chef myself, and I've seen how trends on social media, right? Everyone, now we've got food coloring on pap, on this, on that,
Yeah.
and people, I think some of the chefs, not all, they tend to forget the training in terms of health and safety. Not everything that can be paired in your mind with whatever actually go together. Some are contraindication or just completely contradicting each other, and they hinder health, you know, someone's health. And then a comment to what Chef has said, Chef Philippe said, is to keep things simple. I see people, for instance, there's Guamaimai and there's Marabastat and all of that. Those women make so much money with just simple pap and mukhodu. They're keeping it simple. Now we want to, what's this? We take mautwana, the runaways, chicken feet. We want to make them into something that it's not actually as traditional as we know it. And I think we then tend to lose the customers, and then we find our businesses dying because we don't know who we are cooking for. If you know who you are preparing the food for, then you will know what happens in your kitchen and how to run the cost. So I actually appreciate that, into keeping things simple so you can be able to excel or, you know, make money. But the question still stands in terms of trends and all of that in the gastronomy. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your question. Chef Vusi.
Yeah, okay, cool. That's a hard one. But what I will say is what's important is for manufacturers to actually state the use of the product and how to use it correctly. What we do see go wrong in the market is actually taking a raw spice and just sprinkling it in food. But we all know that it's a safety hazard, right? So also us as chefs, we should be calling out these things, right? If we see things that are going wrong, we should call them out. It's the right thing to do. So coming back to our product, so we make sure our products are tested and we run through, and every product that we have, look at the back of pack, you'll find a standardized recipe. Yes, our product, like you said, the hollandaise, you can use, it's versatile. You can have your pesto hollandaise, you can have your sriracha hollandaise, you can have your prego hollandaise. But however, in the back of pack, it states how you can use it, and it's all there all the time. So again, to answer you, us as manufacturers have proper instruction on the usage of the product and making sure that it's used properly. Eh? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chef Philippe, I wanted to ask you, when you're designing an executive menu for an establishment, how do you cater for the new wave of consumers who don't want to drink alcohol, they don't want sugar, they want alternative milks? There's a whole range of consumers out there. Now, we're talking about chasing trends and how that can be dangerous, but also surely there's an opportunity to grow your consumer base if you do cater to this new generation of more health and wellness-centered consumers.
Okay, so I'm going to answer your question by answering your comment. you cannot go forward if you don't know where you're coming from. And this is the big mistake that unfortunately a lot of young chefs come into the industry. And I do a lot of talks when you have the guys coming in for the first time. I ask them, who do you want to be like? And you're landing up with all the guys on the internet. And then a few of them, you got my grandma, my mother, because that's where you learned, and that's what developed your product. To answer your question, basically is, and I tell all the couples that come and want to talk to me, I tell them, my menu is basically my stock sheet. This is what I've got. I don't know, 50, 60 items on the menu. This is what I've got. You tell me what you want. So if you want something more targeted to the sportsman, or more targeted to, you got couples that come and they really want basic food. And you got couples that come and say, no, but we travel the world and we go and eat in 3-star Michelin restaurant, but we're looking for something different. So I just adjust the menu to their wishes. We're lucky enough to have a lot of, can I say a lot of foreigners in this country? Or a lot of people with a foreign background. So I had a wedding last night, for argument's sake, where the lady came from Serbia. And she came, she said, no, I come from the Balkan. And, we want, and so I made it easy. Being part of the World Association, I spoke to my colleagues in Serbia, and I said, give me a couple of recipes from there and let me try and do them. And you just plain in practice. So, people come, she says, no, especially when you work for, I thought after 10 years in hospitals was bad. 7 years in a wedding venue, you've seen everything. People are, you've got the normal vegetarian, vegans, celiac, which is the normal stuff. And then you got, I'm allergic to tomatoes, and I can't see this, and I can't see that. And I think you need to be adaptable to what your clientele wants, which will then give you a reputation, especially when you run a wedding venue. When you run a restaurant, it's much more difficult because you have a standard menu, you have to operate it according to that. An event company or a wedding venue or whatever, you can adjust your menu as you go along. And I think you try and do it as simply as possible to please your clientele, your guests. But you mustn't forget also that the person that comes to taste your food and wants it for that wedding, if they happen to have 150 or 200 people coming, you're landing up with another 180 different flavor profiles. I did a wedding for 37 people. They came tasted full vegan. And I turned around and said, you do realize that part of your guests, maybe 80% of your guests eat meat 9 times a week. She says, when they come to our house, they get vegan food. So we prepared vegan food to the best of our ability for the whole 37, and they loved it. So I think you need to be very adaptable. And it's, it's the thing we use in the kitchen, à la minute. Somebody comes and says, oh, no, I want something sugar-free. Okay. You want something sugar-free, sugar-free. We want something organic. Yes, there are shops where we can go and you can buy organic food. I turned around to what the mother of the groom. I said, if I may ask, where do you stay? She said, no, they were staying somewhere in East London. So I said, may I ask, do you have a maid? And she said, yes. I said, ask your maid to supply you with vegetables. Because there's nothing more organic than going to your maid because your maid can't afford pesticides. So that's where you'll have the organic product. So I think you need to be adaptable to the moment. And that will make you part of the trend because you're adaptable to the moment.
Right, thank you, Chef. All right, I think we probably have time for one more question, and then we'll have some closing remarks and we'll wrap it up. But yes, I'd love to hear your question. Thank you.
Hi. So I have two questions. Question one is, with the high employment rates, we've seen a lot of people inventing or starting becoming chefs or opening their small stalls or doing something like that. And we realized that we are now being exposed in low quality food because most of us cannot afford to buy good quality. Number two is, Mr. Boota, you say that when you work in a restaurant, you can see brands and all of that. What is it that brands are doing to support people that are in the beginning of the food industry? Number two, cancer is booming because of processed food, right? Are we educating our fellow South Africans about the steps that they do or the things that they do or the dangers that their customers can enhance in using things that are not in good quality? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Chef Vusi, do you want to answer the first, and then Boota, you can answer the second part?
Yeah. So, one, we'll go back to what you said earlier on, and I was speaking about products, right? So, a lot of people or entrepreneurs buy low quality products by thinking that they are saving money, right? I'll give you an example. You might buy a cheap curry powder, but in that curry powder, you will use 5 tablespoons, right, to get to that exact taste. But where you take not hours, you'll use 1 spoon, but the taste is superb. And also, it goes back to food safety. So what is that? Is the product that you bought, is it food safety or not? Is it compliant to our current laws in food safety? So, and then what we do as well as Unilever is then we run things like we run something which is called Township Masterclass. So we go to the townships and find small businesses, and we teach them on how to use the product, how to make more profit in what they do, and on how to use the product accordingly. I hope that answers your question. Eh?
You ask what are brands doing to support? I think before I get to my business, what I've realized is there are many suppliers, manufacturers that are doing a lot, but and a lot for communities, like Vusi is saying, but people don't know about it, right? So it's only maybe a little portion that knows, etc. But widely, many suppliers are doing a lot. At Coca-Cola, as an example, we've got what's called business in a box. This is where we go and we support township economies, go and find entrepreneurs, young entrepreneurs in the township. We basically give you a business in a box, so we give you a container, you're able to sell your product, etc. One of our quite successful things, somebody mentioned Guamaimai. We went to Guamaimai market and we supplied, and I love that place. It's run by women. It's a good news story, and we went there and we supplied the tables there. We supplied the ladies with uniforms and utensils to be able to sell. So I think there are a lot of initiatives that suppliers are doing, but I don't think that they are filtering down, or the information is filtering down where it should. And hence your question, because perhaps you don't know that Coca-Cola is doing this, perhaps you don't know that Unilever is doing this. So I think as I take out of this thing is to also go back to my principles in my business to say, I think we have got to announce more. And I would encourage that those in other spaces go back and announce more what they are doing, because the work is being done. But it's appearing as if it's for a selective few, and it's not. Yeah, thanks, Ian.
1, 2. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you all for your attention here this morning. I hope it was an insightful session and you all learned a lot and enjoyed it. And if I can just ask you to give a huge round of applause to our 3 guests here today. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Really appreciate it. And thank you very much.